Do you find yourself oversharing to other people? Do you let other people define your reality or define who you are? Are you guilty of acting on your first impulses? Do you overspend on your budget or sleep in a few extra hours every morning? This is your message to stop dishonoring yourself and set boundaries. And I know setting boundaries is really difficult, especially when you don't even know what they look like or how they're supposed to feel. In this video, I will be sharing with you the steps that I took to implement boundaries to upgrade my life and my mentality, and in turn, hopefully you will transform your life for the better as well. My name is Emily Parr. You may know me from TikTok or Instagram. I talk about spirituality, manifestation, and wellness, and I'm here to empower the divine being in you. If you tend to be a very empathic soul and you take on the emotions of other people, setting boundaries is the first step in order to take back your power. Oftentimes, what empaths do is they absorb the negative emotions of other people. I always use the analogy that you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you really want to be there for other people, you have to prioritize yourself first. So the first step in deciding to set boundaries is recognizing that you don't have to feel shameful or guilty for prioritizing yourself first. I understand how difficult this is. I was in a position back in the summer where I was looking after my grandparents, and it was actually overwhelming to the point where I wasn't able to dedicate myself to my work because I was so consumed by the amount of grief that was involved in trying to care for them. And just to be clear, this has nothing to do with them or what they were doing wrong. This had to do with how I was prioritizing my own schedule and my own care. I had to realize that I couldn't show up in all areas of my life as my higher self if I wasn't creating a proper structure. And in this particular situation, I was lucky enough to be more than supported by my family in making these boundaries. But sometimes we avoid setting that boundary because we're afraid we're going to upset or anger somebody. These are the types of people that you might want to watch out for. These are the types of people that in some cases you may want to cut out of your life. And in other cases, you may want to reframe the relationship and follow what I'm saying and set these boundaries in place so that you guys can have a healthier interaction. Because honestly, the bottom line is that if you have to ignore your needs for another person, that person is not meant to be in your life. If you're sick and tired of people disrespecting you, you need to show yourself that respect first. And a part of that is really sticking to your guns on what's important to you. So before we go forward in talking about how to implement boundaries and what they should feel like, I'm going to share a few more signs that you're lacking them. So another sign that you may lack boundaries is that you fail to speak up when you're mistreated. You give away too much of your time to other people. You agree when you actually feel like disagreeing, and that's what I mean when I say that you have to really stick to your morals and your values. You constantly feel like a victim, and you attract people who try to control or dominate you. They try to manipulate you in different types of ways. Boundaries are not just a suggestion, a personal attack, something others can change, or something that people can blatantly disrespect. Boundaries are saying what you're comfortable with, a way to protect yourself, different for everyone, and a very healthy and necessary thing. Boundaries actually feel like this. It is not my job to fix other people. It is okay if people disagree with me. I am enough. It is not my job to take responsibility for other people. I do not have to anticipate the needs of other people. It is my job to make me happy, and I have a right to my own feelings. So here are 4 reasons why you really need boundaries. So the number 1 reason why you need boundaries is as a form of self-care. This is how you're able to say no to things that aren't in alignment with your higher self. Boundaries allow you to let go of how other people feel and focus on what is important to you so you can actually get more done and be a better support to other people ultimately. Number 2, boundaries allow you to be your true self. This is what creates separation to allow for your own feelings and your own decisions to shine through. Number 3, boundaries create realistic expectations from other people. When you clearly communicate your boundaries to other people, they will know how to behave, and as a result, they're going to treat you with the respect that you ultimately deserve. And like I said before, when these expectations are not met, that's it. That's your boundary. That's your line. If they've crossed that line, it's your right to show them the door if that relationship isn't in alignment with you anymore. Number 4, boundaries create safety. Boundaries provide physical and emotional space to avoid you getting hurt. It keeps out what makes you feel uncomfortable and helps to keep triggers at bay. And once again, when you communicate these things to the people that care about you the most, they will uphold them, because they should care about your emotional and physical well-being. And again, if they don't, bye-bye. If there's one thing that I've learned personally, is that I would much rather be actually alone than to be around a bunch of people that make me feel alone. So let's get into how to set boundaries so that you can regain control over your life. Number 1 is identify your limits. So this may be something that you have to do over a period of time in journaling. You can go through the different areas of your life and really figure out where things are kind of not being met. Where are your physical or emotional needs not being met, and create a limit when you're writing this. Maybe this is a trigger word. That's your limit. If they say this particular word, if they bring up an experience that you're trying to heal from, that could be a limit that you might want to set with somebody. So think about the experiences that you've had in the past that have left you feeling really hurt or vulnerable or uncomfortable. When you categorize and define your boundaries, you have to look at the different areas of your life: mental, physical, material, time. A really important physical boundary that you may want to set in place is letting someone know that they can't touch you a certain way, or they can't touch you in public. Or maybe it's telling your sibling that they can't take your car without asking you. And then clearly define and communicate these boundaries to the people in your life, whether that's relationships romantically, whether that's friendships, whether that's parents, whether that's siblings or cousins or whatever it may be. Clearly define those limits to those people, obviously when it's appropriate to. The second way to set personal boundaries is through assertiveness. Now, I understand for someone who is so used to not setting boundaries that this can be very difficult, and that's why I said the first step is to overcome that guilt and shame and remember that this is something that is necessary for you to be a stronger, healthier, better person. Assertiveness means that when someone crosses those limits that you just defined, you're going to assert yourself and you're going to speak up for yourself and you're going to shut down whatever it is that they're bringing on. Now, I'm going to tell you right away, this is not an easy thing. This is something that you're going to develop over time. You may even think that you're setting boundaries with the way that you're speaking, but in reality, you may be coming off in a way that's too aggressive or too assertive, and it could actually end up doing further damage. So this is something that you'll constantly kind of refine and retune, and I know that I have personally, and I'm going to give you an example on how. When you're setting a boundary, don't do this. I don't want to talk about that. Would you stop asking me about that? Stop prying. Instead, try to say this. Thank you for your interest. Yeah, I'll let you know if I have something to share. It's really important that before you go and assert yourself and assert those boundaries, that you come from a place of responding to whatever it is that's coming up for you rather than reacting. And that's the difference that I'm showing you right there. This way you can regulate your emotions, and again, you're in control of the conversation. You're in control of what is happening. If you don't tell someone that something's making you uncomfortable, how are they going to know? And by being this way, you're able to avoid a lot of further confrontation. The last step in setting personal boundaries is preparing to ignore. And what I mean by that is make use of that block or report button, whether it's online or in real life. Don't be afraid to ignore someone that is overstepping their boundaries and overstepping your limits. This is probably one of the highest acts of self-care that you can show yourself, because you're prioritizing your focus on larger things that matter more. So don't go mistaking kindness for weakness or thinking that setting boundaries means that you're a selfish person. By prioritizing yourself and putting these boundaries in place, you're going to feel so much more in control of your life. Your relationships are going to become better, and you're going to become a much more mentally strong, thick-skinned person. I am naturally a bit of a straight shooter, so when I was learning how to set boundaries, I had to learn a little bit about how to pull things back and not being so blunt. I've also had other points in my life where I haven't spoken up enough. So after you finish this video today, I want you to go and set aside that time to really write down what those boundaries are that you need to set in all the different areas of your life, like I mentioned earlier in this video. And remember ultimately that you have to protect your light. So thank you all for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Comment below if you have any questions or video suggestions for next time, and I will see you very soon. Stay golden.